Hey there, I'm glad you could listen today. So, today we're talking about fish, the big old fish. So, one day God decided to ask a man named Jonah to go to a city and tell the people that's living there to stop doing bad things. The only problem was Jonah didn't want to help those people. And the reason for that, Jonah was a good guy, but he knew them people was bad, and he wanted them to be punished for their mistakes. So instead of listening to God like he ought to done, he thought, I'm going to run away and not do what God asked me. So he ran to the sea, and he found a boat that was going to another city. So he paid the captain of the boat, and he went in the bottom of the boat and he went to sleep. Now after a while, shortly after the boat left the shore, there's a big bad storm come up, and it tossed the boat around, and it's such a bad storm that the men on the boat thought it was going to break a ship up into little pieces. So all them guys in the boat were scared to death because of this storm. And so they started calling out to each one of them's gods. Well, of course, none of their gods answered them, so they decided to throw all their packages and bags overboard, hoping that the boat wouldn't sink and they wouldn't drown. Well, the captain, he got worried, and he went to find Jonah because he was still sound asleep in the bottom of the boat. He woke Jonah up and asked him, "How in the world can you sleep? Get up and pray to your God. Maybe he can help us." Well, the captain didn't realize that Jonah didn't just believe in any God, but the one true God, and that he could help. So meanwhile, the other sailors decided that the storm was Jonah's fault. So they went to Jonah and asked him all kinds of questions, like who he thought was responsible for the storm, what kind of work did he do, where did he come from, and what kind of heritage he was. He told them he was a Hebrew, and that he worshipped the Lord, the God of heaven that made the sea and the land. Well, they immediately thought that he must have done something wrong to make his God angry. So the sea started getting rougher and the storm started getting worse. So they asked Jonah, "What have you done? What can we do to make this storm stop?" Jonah told them he was running away from something God had asked him to do. He told the men that it was his fault the storm had come, and that if they threw him over, the storm would stop if they threw him over in the sea. Well, they didn't want to throw him overboard because they knew it'd kill him. He'd drowned out there in the sea. So instead, they tried their best to row the boat back to land, but they couldn't because the sea grew even wilder than before. So the men began to holler out to the Lord and beg him not to let them die for throwing Jonah overboard and killing him, because they knew he was going to die if he threw him over. Well, after that, they grabbed Jonah and threw him overboard, and immediately the raging waters became calm and the storm stopped. When the men saw this, they were afraid of Jonah's God, and they offered him sacrifices and made vows to him. They seen that Jonah's God was the one in control of everything, unlike their gods that they were used to praying to. Then the captain and the crew looked out to sea as a whale came, and that big old whale came and swallowed Jonah whole. Of course, God sent the fish to keep Jonah from drowning. Jonah stayed in the fish in the belly of it for 3 days and 3 nights. Now, I can't imagine how horrible that had to be. I mean, besides being pitch black in there, can you imagine the smell in a fish's belly? God. Anyways, while Jonah was inside the fish, he prayed and called out to the Lord. He recalled what it was like when he was thrown into the sea by the men in the ship. How the waters had covered him up and seaweed wrapped around his head, and how he sank down so far into the dark water. And then he recapped in his own mind how God had brought him up from that deep, dark place as he was about to drown. So he vowed to the Lord to tell everyone that salvation comes from the Lord. After the third day, God told the fish to spit Jonah out on the dry land. Well, the fish did it. Of course he did. It was God telling him to. Jonah was happy to be out of the dark belly of the fish, but boy did he need a shower. He was slimy and smelly all over. Well, the Lord told Jonah a second time to go to the city and tell the people there to stop being bad. This time he obeyed God and left right then. He didn't take his time, he went on. So that city was so big that it took 3 days just to walk through it. When Jonah got there, he told the people what had happened to him. He warned them that God said that they should stop doing bad things, or in 40 days the city and everything in it would be overthrown. To Jonah's surprise, the people listened to him and they prayed to God, and they told God they were sorry for all the bad things they'd done. Well, soon the king of the city heard what was going on, and he ordered everyone to listen to God and to stop doing bad things. Well, when God saw that they was trying to do good instead of bad, he felt the love he had for them and didn't destroy their city. Now that right there could be the end of the story. Except Jonah was real mad and he left the city. He was mad at God. He was mad that God didn't punish the people. I guess that stint in the well wasn't long enough. So Jonah went on a hill and he sulked like a big baby. He told God that this was the reason he had ran away. He knew how compassionate God is and knew that he would end up forgiving the people in the city. Jonah sat there on that hill and watched down on the city to see what would happen to it. Then God provided a leafy plant and made it grow up over Jonah's head to provide him shade while he waited. Jonah was so happy about the plant and the shade it gave him. But the next morning, God sent a worm to chew on the plant and make it wither. When the sun came up, God made the wind really hot and made the sun blaze down on Jonah's head so that he thought he was going to pass out. Jonah was mad again. He was so angry he wanted to die. Then the Lord explained what had happened. The Lord told Jonah that he was only angry over losing a plant that had sprang up overnight, that he hadn't tended it or made it grow. He had nothing to do with it being there. It was God that put it there. And it was only there for one night. So God's like, why are you so mad over losing a plant that you had nothing to do with? God told Jonah, try to imagine having a city that you had cultivated and made all the people in it and all the animals there. Known them all for years. He told him to try to imagine having to destroy all those people and animals, over 120,000 people, without first giving them a chance at changing their lives. Jonah was mad over losing a plant that he didn't create or make grow and only existed for one day and night. But he expected God to be okay with losing this city and all these people and all these animals. Sometimes we only see what is right in front of us. We only see the bad that others do. God can see the whole picture. He sees a huge picture. He sees what happens if you do something, what happens if you don't do something. He's outside our realm of possibilities. Jonah saw how bad the people were and wanted them to be punished. He didn't realize that God loved these people just as much as he loved Jonah. He had made them from the same dust of the earth that he had made Jonah from. God was reluctant to just destroy them, so that's why he wanted Jonah to try to go save them. Jonah didn't realize just how much God thought of him just by sending him to go tell these people to stop doing bad stuff. That should have showed Jonah just how much God really thought of Jonah. But he was being a big baby. And he went out there on that hill and started sulking. So, are you like the people in this city? Have you been slacking in your prayers? Do you love God but feel like you could be closer to Him? If so, don't wait around on Jonah to come save you. Ask God for help. Ask Him to help you walk that narrow path. Nowadays, we're bombarded with so much sin that we have become immune to the effects of it. We see so much of it each day that the lines between godliness and sinfulness become blurred. We have to continuously do self-assessments to make sure that we aren't blurring those lines. God said to be either hot or cold, not lukewarm. Don't let the evil one blur those lines for you. Be careful what you're letting yourself listen to, what you're letting yourself watch. What goes in also comes out. If you watch and listen to sinful things, it becomes easier to do sinful things. Remember, God is always watching. If you get close to Him, you can feel Him there with you. That will help you when you have temptations to do things you shouldn't. Now, I remember being outside as a kid. Before I'd start to do something I knew was wrong, I would always look at all the windows of my house to see if my mom was looking out of them. If she was, I wouldn't do whatever it was I was fixing to do. But if I didn't see her nowheres, I'd go, doing the thing that I knew I wasn't supposed to. Well, God's always at that window looking at you. He loves you, and that is why He's watching you. He looks forward to the day that He can walk among us again and live with us. Do you look forward to that day? I know I do. I want to thank you for listening to my story. You're so special to me, I just don't know how to explain it more. If you're watching on YouTube, please click subscribe button and the bell button so you'll get notifications when I post another story. If you're listening on a podcast, try to share it to someone that might enjoy it or that it might help. I love you so much. My heart just about bursts with joy when I get off work on the weekend and get to make another story for you. I just want you to know that. Until next time, I love you and God bless.